Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is episode number 287, where we're going to talk about hidden SSIDs. I want to welcome my co host here, Francois. How are you doing, Francois?
Hey, Roy, I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. We're here to talk about a little bit of security, right? Because hidden SSIDs, people think they are secure because we're trying to not have anyone connect to them. But we're here to at least show you that they're not really secure at all, right? If you're hiding an SSID.
Yeah, and it's actually not that hard to prove it. And so to do this, we're going to show you guys a couple of packet captures today. So
Yep.
definitely try to watch this as a video. We're going to upload it on YouTube. Also, Roa worked on some pretty cool visuals. So I'm not going to say more. If you're podcasting this, you should check the video.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
All right. So we'll try to be this as descriptive as possible, but it's really easier to show it on screen. So this
Mhm.
is going to be a demo. Hopefully the demo works well because I'm doing a packet capture on my Mac, the one that I'm recording with, while Francois is connected in. I have a hardwired connection, right? So I'm using my laptop. I'm going to be using AirTool to do the frame capture. And then I'm going to associate to the hidden SSID using my iPad, which is also connected to my laptop via lightning cable. So hopefully that works very well. So with the recording of the video, internet, and all these different connected devices, we'll see how well that works. But the setup is going to be two things. We have two SSIDs. One is a visible SSID. It's just open to make it simple. And then I have a hidden SSID, which you can't see. And we're going to find out what that name is of that hidden SSID. But first off, we wanted to show you what it looks like with Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. So you can see here I have my two SSIDs that I see here, right? Visible test is that one SSID you should be able to see. And then there's this hidden network. It's kind of mysterious. You don't know what the actual name is. And you can see I have the vendor as the MIST access point. And really all I'm doing is filtering on just MIST Systems Inc. You can do that by right-clicking on the vendor if you've got the vendor column enabled, and then just do apply as a filter. So if we look at the advanced details of the visible SSID, you could, so I click on advanced details, I click on the SSID advanced details, and then there is an information element called visible test, right? You'll always see that with beacon frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a
Yeah, it's
beacon
you
frame
have
that
it
we're
in.
looking at.
Sorry, Roa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
what's interesting to me is that you just in Wi-Fi Explorer, you're just scanning the environment,
Yeah.
and you know that there's an hidden SSID, right? So it's already interesting that we can see there's a hidden SSID. Like you said,
Yeah.
we don't know what the name of it is yet,
Mhm.
but we can already see there is something that someone is hiding.
Yeah.
So and
And
like
you
you
can,
said, if we look into the beacons even more in details, you have this information element which is called SSID, and inside that SSID information element, you have the SSID parameter, and we have it in your case in the visible test. We can see it's explicit and it says visible test, and this is what the device would use if you try to connect to a network using your iPhone and you're scanning the environments. This is the field that your phone will come and retrieve the SSID name from to show it to you on your device.
yep, exactly. So as a device is trying to look for an SSID, it's going to say, hey, here's visible test, and then show it to you on your screen. So this hidden network, though, you can tell that there is no, in Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, there is no information element for SSID. It's just not showing us in Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, but when we do the frame capture, we will actually see the SSID information element. It's just empty, right? Because it's hidden. You don't know what the network name is. So the question is, Francois, how do you even associate to a hidden network since you don't know what it is?
Yeah, so if you don't know what the name of the network is as you scan the environment, your device won't pop it up, as you try to connect. So there's only one way to really connect to the network is by, as a user, specifying yourself which networks you want to connect to. So as a user, you're going to go to your iPhone. Instead of clicking on an existing SSID that you just discovered, you're going to click on connect to other network, and then the device will let you enter, which is the hidden SSID, the one you're trying to connect to, and then explicitly the user is going to say, okay, I want to connect to that SSID.
So that is one downside to a hidden SSID, is without an MDM where you can provision this SSID for a bunch of devices, somebody has to manually type that in. You have to get the exact, uppercase, lowercase, spaces, numbers. You have to get
Syntax,
that SSID exact. It has to be,
emojis, right?
yeah. If there's an emoji in it, you can have an emoji in the SSID. You got to have that in there,
Yeah.
right? So it needs to be absolutely correct with the correct password, or whatever security you have. In our case, it's just an open SSID, so that way it's easy for us. One thing I did want to show too is, I just missed it. So I have the scene column here, and because I'm not actually associated to any Wi-Fi right now on my laptop, but because I see the beacon frames, it says just now it's seen it. Sometimes on this hidden network here, it'll say, saw it 20 seconds ago. So it's just kind of curious how the drivers react to this hidden SSID. And I think it's just different amongst like all other manufacturers, right?
Yeah, I think different devices will have different Wi-Fi drivers to work with these hidden SSIDs differently. Um, when I did some tests this morning as well, connecting from my iPhone, and I noticed
There it
that
is.
it, yeah, you can see it now 2 seconds ago versus just now on your visible SSID. But I've noticed connecting through using my iPhone to a hidden SSID, it took forever.
Yeah.
And I noticed because I was doing a packet capture trying to capture the proper frames. And I waited, I would say maybe 20-30 seconds before the little spinning wheel, stopped and I got the check mark. So,
Yeah.
well, it might be something else. It might be my DHCP not giving me an IP address
Yeah.
or,
Yeah, we'd have to look
um,
in, dig into it a little bit more, but I suspect that some devices do not work well with hidden SSIDs. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but we want to show you now what it looks like to find this hidden SSID. Very easy, right? So I'm going to use AirTool as my method of capturing frames. So I click on AirTool at the top right, and then I'm just going to capture on a single channel. And I know which channel I want to capture on for this hidden SSID because here it is, hidden network. I have a channel column enabled, and it says it's on channel 36. I know it's coming off of the same AP that my visible test SSID is on, right? Because we had the same vendor, a very similar BSSID. It's just incrementing differently on the last digits there. So channel 36. I'm going to go to AirTool, single channel capture on 5 gigahertz, and I'm going to select channel 36. There we go. It should open Wireshark for me here. There we go. It's Wireshark. Then we should see a bunch of beacon frames, right? So if we look at this, you can see visible test, but then there's one SSID that's just kind of like gibberish there. That's the hidden SSID. So we'll take a look at that after we associate. So now I'm going to go to my iPad, and hopefully this demo part works. So here's my iPad. You can see I'm not connected to any networks right now. So I'm going to scroll down. I see visible test, but I don't know what the hidden SSID. It actually does not show hidden network here like it does on Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. But what I'm going to tap on is other, and then I know that the SSID is called hidden test. So I have to make sure I type that in properly, hidden, and I think it's a dash, and then test. And the security is just open, so there's no password. We want to click on security and select none. And then from here, we will click join. So what I'm going to do is tap on join, and then I'll switch back to viewing Wi-Fi or Wireshark. Right, so there we go. We're joining. We'll go back to Wireshark. Oh, we see stuff happening there, and I am connected. So what I'll do is I'll stop the Wireshark capture here, and maybe we look at some of the beacon frame. So here's the two SSIDs, right? Visible test, we'll go back through here as we saw in Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. There's the SSID information element. So now let's look at this one. So in Wi-Fi Explorer Pro, it did not show the SSID information element, but you can see here it does exist. But take a look at that name there. It's not
Yeah.
visible.
And at this point, I think it's very important to also think about beacons and beacon overhead, because some people think that if I hide my SSID, I'm gonna minimize the number of beacons I send out of my APs, and I'm gonna improve my my overhead. But it's actually not the case. If you hide an SSID, you still have beacons coming out of your APs every 102.4 milliseconds. The only difference between the two is exactly what you've shown, is the fact that in the SSID information element, one will explicitly tell you which SSID we're talking about, and the other one will not have anything. It will be blank.
Yep.
So the beacon frame might be a little smaller on that hidden SSID, but that's the only beacon overhead you're really
Yeah.
saving.
Yeah, you're so you know this is why we don't actually recommend hidden SSIDs. There might be another really good use case for doing it. Maybe you don't want people to come up to you and be like, "Hey, what's the password to this SSID?" It's more of an inconvenience, right? Of people asking for the password or asking to connect to it, but it does not provide any more additional security, as we'll find out in a second. So I'm gonna filter on specific frame. So here's the probe requests, right? So here is my iPad. You can see what SSIDs it's trying to connect to. And if we look at this one right here, there's the hidden test that I was looking at, right? So let me clear the filter so maybe we can also see the probe response. So here's the two frames that are particularly interesting, right? This is my iPad, and you can see also the missed access point broadcasting the SSID's visible test. There's the BSSID of that one, and this is the BSSID of the hidden SSID. So all I'm doing is doing a capture, over the air capture. I see the probe request, my iPad saying, "Hey, where is hidden test here at all?" And then my missed access point, you can see is the same BSSID, E6:D3, and it's responding to my iPad with a probe response saying, "Hey, I got you right here." Right. So there's the acknowledgement, and then eventually we've got the authentication. So there it is. We found it, Francois. Hidden test. Now
Yeah,
the
and then
SSID information
you have it
elements there.
again in the yeah. So you have it in the probe request, probe response, and then you have it again in the association request, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so it's not really, if you can capture any clients connecting to that SSID. So think about an environment where you have a hidden SSID with multiple access points. Every time those clients will roam from one AP to another. So if you have any sort of mobile clients in that environment, you can do packet capture and then capture those frames, and you'll be able to discover it. So that's why it's not really secure. You can just do simple packet capture, and then discover it in those probe requests, probe response frames. The clients will pretty much tell you what the hidden SSID is. So it's not really hidden anymore if you can see it.
Yep. And
And
this will
it's
happen all the time because once let's talk about roaming real quick then, because we
mhm.
talked about how it's one, it's an inconvenience for the user to type it in, but for roaming, uh, the since we are not sending the SSID in clear text for a device to see within the beacon, the device does not know where the APs are, so it has to do a probe request for that SSID. So no matter where they are, they're going to probe request and get a probe response. So you can do the capture from maybe outside of the building and be able to capture this SSID name, and then now the attacker can continue on with his next attack, right? He's got the device name, the MAC address, and SSID. I can tell now it's an open SSID. Don't need to have a password set, right? You can tell if it's you can do a lot of things, but the roaming itself will lead to longer AP discovery, and roaming performance is not going to be ideal in this situation for low latency and voice over IP applications.
Yeah, and something we didn't mention, but all of the frames we're looking at right now are management frames, and management frames are not encrypted. So that's why we are able to see all of that information, right? At least the management frames that we're looking at, they're not encrypted. So that's how we're able to actually get that information, from just by looking at the frames.
Yeah, so let's talk
Um,
about then a better way to secure your Wi-Fi network outside of a
mhm,
hidden SSID, right? For one, you could use a pre-shared key. That's the easiest way, but now it's a static pre-shared key that everyone has on their devices. And when a person
mhm,
leaves, you got to change that, right? You got to change that SSID. Hopefully, you have a MDM in place to just push that change automatically. Or
mhm,
if you've got the features, you could do the dynamic PSK. Everyone kind of gets their own PSK. At least
mhm,
that's a step above, and that's when I would recommend unhiding the SSID if that roaming is going to be important, right? So I think a lot of people with point of sale systems will hide the SSID because it's a point of sale system, right?
mhm.
For one, you should make sure that the application is also encrypting everything that it does over the Wi-Fi network. And then if those devices have to roam to different areas of your facility, the roaming might not be as ideal. Maybe the application also does not uh, operate well when the device cannot roam, right? So you'll have issues there too. What are some other ways we should protect this SSID?
Yeah. So usually, what I would tell my customers is, you know, the reason why they hide the SSID is to make it less obvious to find, because nowadays I think it's everyone knows that it's out there. It's not really hiding it. Um, but the drawback of this, as you can said, is that you can impact client association and client roaming. So if you have a lot of mobility in your environment, it's not worth the trouble, and it's better to have your SSID, visible to can make everything work smoother in terms of roaming associating. But then, like you said, in terms of securing the network, you can use real security measures. So you've talked about a password, a PSK. You talked about the multiple PSK, or dynamic PSK, whatever you call it, BPSK, which is nice as well. But then also, what you can do is moving up to WPA3. Now you can use WPA3 with the SAE, which it's kind of fixes all of the issues we had the WPA2 PSK. And then if you have the infrastructure, you can set up a radio server, and then you can use .1x, which is like the strongest way to connect to the network. And nowadays you can get radio servers, online with like Jump Cloud or those services. So it's easier than ever to set up a radio server, and then use that for to secure the access to the network. And you can yeah, I guess protect yourself that way, and still maintain a good user experience on the network.
Yeah, and I think even that 802.1x would be the best way to allow specific devices on your network, right? Uh, you have mutual authentication set up. Don't do just the server authentication, but also authenticate the device that's connecting. That way, you can only allow the specific device that needs to be on that network. For me, it's mainly about the roaming as well because it leads to a better user experience if that SSID is visible because every device will interact a little bit differently with a hidden SSID, right? So you would have to test it a little bit more, especially if you've got a mix of device types, whether you're using iOS or Android. They might handle that differently, especially with the version that they're on. So it is something worth taking a little a deeper look at.
And there's also something, if you have a mix of SSIDs, some of them are hidden, some of them are visible. And like you said, you have a mix of devices, then you may have some funny behaviors as well, because you may have some Wi-Fi drivers that will prefer the visible SSID versus the hidden
Yeah.
SSID. And they might jump back and forth between multiple networks when it's not necessarily what you would want. Um, so that's also something that you have to take into account when you start playing with SSIDs, is how will the devices behave once you start connecting them to these SSIDs.
Yeah, for sure. I think SSID hopping is really could cause a potential issue, especially if those SSIDs are on different networks. So a device will either be doing layer 3 roaming or be on a jumping between networks and having different IP addresses. And I've seen it happen multiple times, especially when a user isn't maybe connects to a different SSID, like the guest SSID, and it doesn't have access to certain things. And then when they move over to the corporate SSID, they still have that guest SSID enabled, but for whatever reason, their device chooses to connect to it, and then they've lost access to certain things. So then the issue becomes, hey, I have a Wi-Fi issue or an outage because I can't access the resources. And really it's because they're on different SSIDs. And so there are certain systems, like if you've got the visibility, you can see what SSID the device is connecting to with timestamps, and you can tell that they're jumping between SSIDs. So because this is a hidden SSID, maybe the device takes a little bit longer to find that hidden SSID, especially depending on the RSSI it's at. Maybe it is starting to go and find another SSID, and because I don't know, maybe it's connected to visible test previously, it'll just say, hey, I'll just join to that one. And then visible test is really my network that is locked down and only has access to certain things and not your corporate resources. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. In this episode, we're just talking about how what we really want to focus on is how easy it is to find that hidden SSID. It really just prevents, someone who isn't as technical to find it.
Mm-hmm.
They just won't be able to join it. And then someone who really wants to do some discovery and digging, it's just as easy as downloading a packet capture tool and running over the air checks. But there are ways to secure the network beyond just hiding the SSID. And there are a lot, I find a lot more downsides to using a hidden SSID.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's so many downsides to using an hidden SSID, why do we still have that option in our configurations? But like you said, it does, for people who are not tech savvy, it does hide it. So if you go from your phone, you won't be able to connect. You just have to understand the drawbacks, and it will bring more problems than solve issues. Except
Right.
if if it's like a strict requirement that you would have. But it's like we were talking about it before the episode. It's like telling the kid, telling your kid, there's a secret box I live in the kitchen, but don't look into it. It's like there's some hidden information, where it is, and it's very tempting,
Yeah, it
and you
is.
can just open the box and see
Yeah.
what's in it. So
Yeah. If anything, you just expose yourself more because you're hiding something, right? You don't want people to
yeah,
find it. So there's something behind that network that it's possibly valuable.
yeah.
All
Hmm.
right. Well, we're interested to know what you guys think about hidden SSIDs. Is there a real use case, like a real example that you have that needs to be hidden, other than security just saying, hey, this should be a hidden SSID because it's more secure,
Hmm.
which probably should get a new security person if that's the case. But let us know on Twitter at ClearToSend. Let us know your comments. You can head over to the show notes as well. Go to cleartosend.net/287, which will have the audio and the video there. And we look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on hidden SSIDs. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good week.